עוד יש לומר ייחוד י"ק הוא נמשך על ידי למסור נפשו בקריאת שמע. We can further say that the unification of Yud and Hey of Hashem's name is drawn through the self-sacrifice that we have in Kriyat Shema Vaydaber Haneder Shemesagef Esatzmo, and through the oath that you give yourself difficulty. Gamkin Mamshich Bechinas Hey La, you also draw down the supernal Hey. Like you said before, that it's Bina Kamo Al Yidei L'Shomra Mahara Mamshich Tikun Hey Tata, like to guard from the bad, you draw down a correction for the lower Hey, Shiyum Shoch Ba Havav, that the Vav should come into the lower Hey. Kamo Kin Al Yidei Haneder Mamshich Bechina Bechinas Shchinta Ilah, you draw down the concept of the higher Shchina, Sheyishkon Ba Yud, that the Yud should come into it, Val Derech Milo Priya, like the idea of you have the Milah, which in this context would correspond with the lower Hey, and the Priya, the higher Hey. Neder is Nun Dar, Nun Shari Bina. Nun that dwells is the 50 gates of understanding, Al Derech Tisbru Chamishim Yom, like the concept of how you have to count 50 days. Vim Kol Zeh HaChacham Matiras HaNeder, but nonetheless, wisdom releases the vow that Chachma is higher than Bina, V'achila derech achilas Adam, Shelamayla me'achilas Mizbeach, and the concept of eating that's higher than the eating of the Mizbeach. For Shabbos Oneg, Eden Nahargan, for Shabbos there's Oneg, there's Eden Nahargan, V'gam Bina Nikrehu, Vavad Halevi, Hu, and Bina is also called Hu. At the service of the Levi is the level of Hu, Vayidei Kohanim Kavayamin, and through the Kohanim, the right side. Nimshech al derech kashemna tov chulu shelamayla mebechinas yain chulu, draws down the concept of the good oil that's higher than the concept of wine. Again, Chachma is higher than Bina. No, this says it's Sifyud Beis, but it seems to be a continuation of the Kitzur. V'zehu heter nedarim porchim ba'avir, and this is that the releasing of vows flies into the air. Dinispor le'il, Yanidari mi Bina, that we explained before that the vows come from Bina, Vaydaber Chachma Matira Neder, and through wisdom you release the vow. V'chein kasab Ohr Hatorah mehamagid nishmas. This is also what it's written in Ohr Hatorah from the Magid of Mezrich, B'remzei Gadus, the Daf Lamed Beis, Ubezohar Chilik Beis, Parshas B'shalach Daf Nun Amud Aleph, B'Mamar Ad Lo Ishtaka Avira Dachya, U'Perish B'Mikdash Melech Avira Dachya Yisod Abba. So it says in the Zohar, until it doesn't set the pure air, and the Mikdash Melech explains that pure air refers to Yisod Abba. Kiruach Eish Mayim Afar Heim Chachma Bina V'Torah Mitzvos, because the concept of wind and fire and water and earth correspond with wisdom and understanding, and Torah and mitzvahs, Kamo shekasu b'biurei hazohar sham b'lukuti Torah b'dibur hamaschil v'yamizbar b'nei Yisrael. Al kein heter nedarim nimshach b'bechinas avir hanal. Therefore, if higher than Torah and mitzvahs is the concept of Chachma and Bina, beyond, therefore, the nedarim which are in Bina, they're drawn from the concept of the air. So the releasing of vows flies in the air. That it says about them in a Mamar about the mezuzah that the source of the letters is drawn from the concept of the air, light and yud, which is avir. So that's truly higher than the level of Chachma from Avir, from Keser, and Chachma Atzma, Misham Nimshach Yehiratzon, and from there you draw down the concept of let there be will. She'af al pi, she'al pi Chachma in Yisurim below Avon, that even though, according to wisdom, there's no difficulties or pains without sin, that the wisdom dictates how much pains there should be or reward and so forth. Like it's brought in Yalkut Tehillim on the verse that Hashem is straightforward and good. Shalu lechachma, that they asked wisdom. Nefesh hachotas b'matis kaper, that a soul who sinned, with what will it atone? Amale, so it said, Chataim tiradei fra'ah. So wisdom said that sinners, bad should run after them. Mishlei, Siman Yud Gimel quotes that pasuk from Mishlei. Afal pichein al-yidei hiratzon, but nonetheless, through the drawing down of will, hamshachas haratzon shelamayla me'achachma, drawing down will which is higher than wisdom. V'sham hu rachamim pshutim, and there you have simple mercies. Nosei avon v'fesha v'chata chulu, that he lifts iniquity, he overlooks iniquity and sin, and wanton transgression and so forth. And this level of ratzon is drawn through the letters, that like Matot ties crowns from the Tfilosim Shal Yisrael, so from the letters of prayers, they become the ksarim, they become crowns. So there has a connection to the avira dachya, to the avir, not just the chachma. And it's interesting also how you see how in Medrash it differentiates between what Chachma said and what Torah said. And here we have a concept of Chachma being higher than Torah. We have Torah mitzvos and Chachma being higher than that. Kamokin misham nimshach hataras isra neder chulu. So too, but before I think he said that might be Chachma Tata, Chachma Shlomo. Kamokin misham nimshach hataras isra neder chulu. So too, from here, you draw down the releasing of the forbidden, of the vow, and so forth, from the ratzon, from the avir, even higher than chachma. V'ayim b'haramaz, v'reish Parshas Vayikra minyan avira, in the beginning of Parshas Vayikra, concerning this concept of air, bebir. An explanation of the Mamar of Hechaltzu. If so, the releasing of the vow is through the speech of the sage, or from 3 regular people, that they're able to draw down those from these supernal letters, that are higher than the letters of the one who made the vow. And as is known, that there's 3 kinds of letters: Asfan Rav Ravin, Asfan Benonim, Asfan Zeirin. There's big letters and middle letters and small letters. And the releasing of the vows flies in the air, that they're drawn from the pure air, that's higher than the letters of the vow. Therefore they have the ability to permit the forbidden, that's drawn from the letters of the vow. We can understand further what's brought on the verse. Lift up your staff and stretch it over the sea. Yadcha yudecha, your hand, your yud. If you add a vav to the word yadecha, becomes yudecha, your yud, to split the sea. Because according to the letters of the works of creation that came from Shem Elokim, and so forth, because in all the works of creation it only mentions the name Elokim. And from this aspect, that's the nature of the sea was formed. That you should have the concept of the water as it covers the sea. And therefore, when you need to have the idea that it should change to dry land, you need to draw it down from a higher place. That you have to stretch out your hand. That is to say, your yud. Yud the Shem Havaya, the Yud of name Havaya. Shulamailam Osyos Shem Elokim, which is higher than the name of Elokim. That therefore through this you split the sea. And go away the letters that are from the name Elokim, that are creating and forming the Yam. So when you have the letters from Havaya, or even the Yud from Havaya, the Chokmah, it overcomes the letters of Shem Elokim. That's why it says the angel of Elokim traveled away, or traveled. In this context, we're saying that he traveled away. V'yam or macharehem, he stood from behind. That the main concept was the name of Havaya. Maybe that's also what it says, Vashem Yilachim Lachem, that the Hashem Yud Kivavke will fight for you. Gam Yishloma Ki Baram. Ukadeperish Bezorach Elik Beis Parshas B'Shalach Taf Mem Zayin Tchil Samud Aleph. It's brought in Zohar HaKadosh. In B'Shalach Chazra Shechinta Lachorehon, that the Shechina returned to their back to the Chitzonius. Gam Yishlomar. We can further say Ki Baram Beheberam, that in their creation, the heavens and the earth in their creation, that they were created with hay, or Heizeira, that is to say the small hay, Nimsa, so it's found then, so the life force of the worlds and the nature was drawn from the smaller letters. Therefore, through drawing down the yud from the bigger letters, or even from the middle letters, through this you could change the nature that are drawn from the small letters, so too you can understand the idea how releasing the vows flies in the air, that through drawing down the letters and permitting the vow from the concept of air, or yud, which is the light of yud. Through this you have the ability to permit the forbidden that came from the vow. Now bin is also called the tower that flies in the air, like the concept of the lamed. Therefore, releasing the vows, which comes from bina gam kein poreach ba'avir, also flies in the air, just like the concept of bina. But Pardis there explains that the air that's referred to over there refers not to Chochmah like we're talking about here, but it refers to the idea of Tiferes, and Ikra Ruach, it's called Ruach. Vehabina, Nikra Migdal, Porachas, Vesocheches, Pechanafea, Alavir Hanal. And the Bina, which is called the tower, that's what flies in the air and spreads out its wings, or spreads out and covers over the air, which is Tiferes, so Bina above Tiferes. Ibn Kain, Kamo Kain, Haperush, Binyan Heter Nedarim Porchin Bavir. If so, it's the same idea with permitting the vows that fly in the air. Aval Kipshuto Yishlomar. So that would also be the idea of how Bina, it creates a makif over Tiferes, and that's the Heter Nedarim, But according to the simple explanation, we could say Sha'avir Gavoa Me'amigdal, that the air, Porchim Ba'avir, refers to a level that's higher than the tower. V'chein Perush HaRamaz b'Parshas Breshis b'Davav Gabi v'Iyu Migdal Chad Parach Ba'avira. And that's how the Ramaz explains it in Parshas Breshis concerning the statement that he is a tower. There's one tower that flies in the air. Shamigdal hu malchus ha'avir tiferes. That the tower refers to malchus, and the air that it flies into is tiferes. Vimkein im hamigdal bina. So if you transpose that onto the idea how the migdal corresponds with bina, yishloma shaha'avir keser, you could say that the air refers to keser, just like below the avir would be tiferes, so that's a type of keser. So in the kavam tzai, so above, if the tower is bina, the air is keser. So too the Me'ori Or says there, the ha'avir hu yisod, the abba v'ima, that the air is this yisod of abba and ima. Ubepardes erech avir, and in the pardes when it talks about the air perish avir yichud abba v'ima, it says that the air refers to the unity of abba and ima, or Yud, the light of Yud, al-yedei hadas, through das, meaning das elyon, to unite Chochmah and Bina. And like the Me'orior says, the avir is Yisod, but the Me'orior says it's the Yisod of Arich Pin. Od Perush Avir Keser, and further he says in the Pardes and the Erech Ekinoim that Avir is is Keser, the crown. V'asi shapir deheter nedarim shuhu al yedei yichud chochma bina, and therefore it makes sense that we're releasing the vows, which is through the unity of chochma bina, ein v'yesh, the not and the existence. L'chein porchim ba'avir chulu, therefore they fly in the air and so forth. Va'ayin mizeh b'zor chelik beis Parshas Yisro daf tzadik aleph amud aleph v'baharamaz sham ve'efshar lomar, we can say ki lefi she'keser nikra ayin, that because keser is called the knot, v'chein v'achach mama ayin timatzeh, so to wisdom is the concept of from nothing. L'chein nikra avir, therefore this level of chachma or keser is called the air. Shu davar she'enu nitfas b'chinas ayin, which is the idea of something which cannot be grasped, the concept of not, masha'en cannot bina nikra yesh, which is not the case with bina, which is the level of the neder, that's called the yesh, the existence. V'gam perish porchin ba'avir. Further, this idea that it flies in the air, al derech l'chakim mabira mizachulu, is like the concept that of how to the wisdom, it's enough for the wise person with a hint. Like the concept of the point of the yud, which hints to keser. So that concept of the hint corresponds also with this air, with the pointing up to keser. It's just a little point of the yud. It's not part of the letter itself, so it's like in bomamashos, nitvas b'shum oskim b'ramiza, that it's not grasped with the letter, only with the hint. Dainurakot spilvad, that is only with a thorn of the letter v'lo os mamash, not an actual letter. V'kach misham shoresh heter nadarim chulu. So too from there is the permitting the vows. Now the letter lamed is also called this tower that flies in the air, and that's the concept of the big letters, shehem bebina, which are in bina. Like it's brought in Zohar Hazinu, v'shadai kamigdalos, concerning that my breasts are like towers, the naharin v'rav ravin, that this refers to these great rivers, the nafkin mi'imay lachulu, that flow from the supernal mother. So we have these big letters that come from Bina. Ach mevur b'dibor hamaschil v'asis atzitz u'behabir perush kodesh lamed milamata v'havai milamayla, and it's brought in, but it's explained in the Memoriam about the tzitz, and the explanation of how the lamed is below and havai is above, and on the tzitz shebechinas kodesh lamed, that you have the concept of the lower word kodesh and the lamed anim shechalidei mitzvos. So that's drawn to the mitzvos. Zewa dain milamata, that's still below. V'shem havai milamayla, and the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei is above that. Zewa shem havai d'arich anpin, so that's shem havai of arich. So if lamed is the migdal, so the shem havai that's higher than that is arich. Ve'inyan kodesh zehu mitzvah sasei, and the concept of holy on the tzitz corresponds with the positive commandments. For lamed hainu mitzvah lo sasei, and the lamed corresponds with the negative commandments. Shemaschil in belamed, that they begin with lamed, lo yelecha chulu, that you should not have in front of you, and so forth. Lo sirtzach chulu, you should not kill, and so forth. Zohar Yisro Daf Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph. Umitzvos aseihem bevavkei velos aseihem beyudkei, and the positive commandments correspond with the vavkei of Hashem's name, and the negative commandments correspond with the yudkei of Hashem's name. V'zeu b'atzilus, and that's in the world of Atzilus. So that's, it also corresponds with Havaya, but Havaya of Atzilus and not Havaya. V'imkein Havaya milamayla, if so, the Havaya that's beyond that, hainu b'china shelamayla mehasei velos asei. So it's a concept that's higher than the positive commandments and the negative commandments. Shemisham nimshach nosiyavun chulu, that from that level you have a concept of forgiving of sin and so forth, that the tzitz is miratza. So if you have the tzitz miratza, it must be coming from that place of keser, the havaya varich. Ein mashakasu v'chiagav nasuf tibur amaschil b'sumei b'poraya drush harishon binyan ad lo yidai ben Ohr Haman Shumitzvah lo sasei ubin Baruch Mordechai Shu Q mitzvah sasei, concerning the idea. It's brought in the Mamar about Purim, until you don't know the difference between that cursed is Haman, which corresponds with the negative commandments, and blessed is Mordechai, which corresponds with the positive, fulfilling the positive commandments. Kim b'chinas tshuva, because the concept of returning in repentance, ulamayla mishneim yad ramachul, which is higher than both of them. You have the Yad Hagadola, Yad Chazaka, and you have Yad Rama, the exalted hand, and so forth, that corresponds with Tshuva, Chulu, and so forth, and that's higher than Ohr and Baruch. Just like here, you have the idea that's higher than Mitzvah Asay and Lo Sasay as well in the tzitz. V'zeu atzmo in Kodesh Lamed Mitzvah Sasay, and it's the same concept here with the Kodesh Lamed. You have the Mitzvah Sasay and the Mitzvah Lo Sasay. In Madayin Lamata, they're still below on the tzitz, legabi Shem Havaya Shalamayla, in comparison to the higher Shem Havaya. V'zeu inyan migdal shu alamed lo sasei, and that's the concept of the big tower, which is the lamed, the negative commandments. Poreach ba'avir, it flies in the air. Hainu Shem Havaya d'la'ela, that it goes to the higher Shem Havaya shinu nitvas b'shum saga. That's not grasped in any, it's not understood in any grasping of thought or intellect. So I guess you have the kodesh of the yudke of the mitzvah lo sasei is somehow connected to the higher Shem Havaya. V'kamosh b'ma'ori or Aleph Kufnan Gimel Binyan Gimel Osius Emesh b'Sefer Yetzirah, that these three letters Aleph Mem Shin that are brought in Sefer Yetzirah, Him Avir b'Keser, correspond with the air that's in Keser, Mayim b'Chochma, and water and wisdom, Eish b'Bina, and fire and understanding, Mitzvah Sasei, Mitzvah Lo Sasei. And the concept of the positive and negative commandments, Him b'chinas Mayim v'Eish Chulu, the concept of the water and the fire. So the air, which is Keser, is higher than them. And so too, the permitting of the vows, that's from Bina b'chinas Os Lamed, which is the letter Lamed, Gam Ken Poreach Ba'avir, also flies in the Avir, in the air, V'nikra Avir Kadmon, and it's called the supernal air. So, in this context, the Lamed corresponds with that level of the Avir of the Arich. Maybe not like the Tzitz. Uklolos HaTorah Nikra Gam Ken Mashal HaKadmoni, and the whole concept of the Torah is called the supernal allegory, like it's brought in the Mamar of the mezuzah on the right side. Rashi so now Rashi in Chagiga, he brings this idea of how permitting of vows flies in the air. There's a small hint, but that's how it was given over to the sages in the oral Torah. If so, it's like a concept of a remez in the Torah, like the pouring water on the Chag. That's not written directly in the Torah, but only hinted to. That it's brought in Lakuti Torah b'dibur amas chilushav temayim b'sas and drusha sheni shelchein lo nechtav b'torah shevechsav, that therefore it wasn't written in the written Torah lefi shuhu min b'chinas sofer shelamayla misefer, because it comes from such a high place. It comes from the concept of the scribe that's higher than the book. Kamo ken yishlomar, so too we can say here b'inyan hataras nadarim, concerning the idea of releasing vows. Al pi mashaka so b'torah or Parshas Shmos b'dibur amas chiliv libcha yehege ema, and as it's brought in the Mamar that your heart will speak fear, will whisper fear. Ayes sofer, where is the scribe? Ayes shokel, where is the weigher? Ayes sofer samigdalim, who's the one who counts the towers. So you see, you have a concept of towers on this level of sofer, to bechinas ayah. So in explaining this pasuk, the concept of ayah sofer, zehu ha'igul hagadol, ayah zehu ha'igul hagadol, that refers to the great circle shlifnei hakav, before the kav. So it's the concept of Ein Sof, before the tzimtzum, before the kavu atzma b'chinas sofer v'shokel b'kav amiduchulu, and it himself, the concept of the igul hagadol in sof, as it's the igul hagadol is the one who counts and weighs with the kav. So ayah is the sofer, ayah is the shokel, ayah is the sofer samigdalim. It's the one that weighs with the kav amida. So it's ayah shokel. V'gam came sofer samigdalim b'chinas migdal aporeach ba'avir hanal, and it's also this idea of the scribe or the counter of the towers. So sofer is not just a scribe, but it's also a counter. So when you go down into the shokel, into the weighing of shishtal, you also have the concept of counting of the towers. So it's the concept of the tower that flies in the air. So it corresponds with the igul hagadol. So it's also a concept of keser, and the like, the concept beyond hishtalshlus. We explained that this already, that the concept of the tower that flies in the air corresponds with the concept of permitting the vows that flies in the air. It's the concept of who is the one who counts the towers. So if so, it's called who is the scribe, who is the counter. So for sefer, but still the concept of the scribe, which is higher than the concept of the book. And therefore there's not a clear written description of how to release vows in the Torah. Nikra sefer, which is the Torah, is called the book. Only in the words only in the oral Torah. Hanikra divrei sofrim, which is called the words of the scribes, that comes from this higher level of the scribe. Where is the scribe? Because the concept of the book is letters. V'hu b'bina, and it's on the level of bina, like the neder itself, al sofer, but the concept of the scribe, zehu mikor ha'osios, is the source of the letters. V'kemo shekasu b'makom acher b'dibur hamas b'makom acher b'likutei Torah b'dibur hamaschilim b'chukosai. So the scribe is the source of the letters, and like it's brought in Likutei Torah, if you go on my statutes, minyan osios hachakika, concerning the engraved letters, mineu bei, that are engraved within it, kamokenu inyan sofer, so too it's the concept of the scribe. Hine aneder nimshach meha osios hadibur. Now the concept of the oath comes from the letters of speech, sheyesh ba'adam, that are in man, shmekochem nimshach la'asur davar hamutar mitamanal, that it is in their ability to forbid something that's permissible, from the reason we said, v'haheter nimshach mimakom gavoy yoser. I guess that's perhaps like the Torah, Shvichsa forbids things, so to the Nidarim, which are on the level of the letters, has the ability to forbid things. And the permissibility comes from a higher place, releasing the vow, from the source and root of the letters, that are in wisdom, that from there you can draw down a permissibility on that which was forbidden from the letters, which is called the book. Parshas So, like it's brought in Zohar Vayechi concerning the concept of Moshe, which is who is called the man of Elokim. That is, the concept is that he's rooted in Ziranpin, which is called the sun. Moshe is compared to the sun. If so, he is, so to speak, the husband to the name of Elokim. Elokim is the nartik to the shemesh, the cover for the sun. And Moshe is compared to Ziranpin, the sun. So Havaya is like the shemesh, and Elokim is like its sheath. So if so that's like the husband to Elokim, like it's known in the Rashi Tevos of Leah and Moshe and Tfilah Moshe. And therefore it says that her husband will establish it, and her husband will release the vow, will nullify the vow, that the letters of speech of Ziranpin nullify the letters of Malchus, like you brought before, that the letters of creation are the small letters. So perhaps the concept of Ziranpin, like he says, because in Zah the letters are the middle letters, but Malchus nikra asfan zeirin, and in Malchus the letters are called the small letters. Okay, therefore it's the law that the husband can nullify them, because the middle, even the medium letters, nullify the small letters of the vow. You don't even have to go to Bina. If the husband can also nullify them, but the Chacham that is Matir is Bina. And the husband that is Mephir is in Ziranpin, Kamokin Yuvan Gamkin, B'masha Chacham Matira Neder. So you can understand with this that the sage permits the vow, releases the vow. You could say that the vow of a person comes from the middle letters, and the sage draws down from wisdom and understanding, which are the big letters, and therefore he can permit the vow. So you don't have to explain that neder is the small letters. You could even say that it's the medium letters. And if you want to say that the neder also comes from bina, so how can you be matir neder from the level where it comes from? You still have the letters of wisdom, that are higher than the letters of Bina, like the engraved letters and so forth. You have letters higher than letters. So maybe that's even a concept of how the neder is if it's Asfan Rav Ravan, so the neder might even be from Asfan Rav Ravan. And you just need the higher letters of Chakika to release them, the letters of Chachma, Osios HaChakika. Gam lahaya minyan moshel ba'adam tzadik moshel iras elokim, so too you can awaken to the idea of ruling over man, how a tzaddik rules over fear of Elokim. Shakodesh Baruch Hu gozer gezerah, that the Holy One, blessed be He, makes a decree, ba'tzadik mevatla, and the tzaddik nullifies it. He's moshel b'iras Elokim v'tigzor omer v'yakum lach, and that he decrees and says, and it's established for you. V'ayin mashakatz v'alpas al pi medrash Esther al pasuk v'yivaz be'einav lishloach. What's brought in the medrash Esther, how Haman did not want, it was despised in his eyes to send his hand to Mordechai alone. Ani amarti lashmidim v'lo yacholti, I wanted to destroy them, but I was not able. So I guess the concept of that Mordechai was higher than the decree. That the Kodesh Baruch Hu was gozer hashmada, but the tzaddik is mevatel, so meaning to say that Mordechai was not and within that degree, because he would be able to be mevatel for himself, something like that. Shneimar luli Moshe b'chiro. And same thing with Moshe, like it says, if it wasn't for Moshe, his chosen one, Amad Beperetz Lefanav, who stood in the break in front of him. What does it mean, Beperetz? In the breaks, just like the king breaks the boundary, Allah Haporetz, and the Allah Haporetz Lefneim, the like Peretz and Zorach. And the Mashiach is called the poretz, the one who breaks the boundary. So Moshe is also the one who broke the boundary. That he was compared to the king. That can make a decree. He can be gozer. For David nikra ben partzi. So too David is called the son of Peretz. There's ben partzi. Moshe himshich mibechina mibechinas atik yamin. That Moshe drew down from the concept of the Ancient of Days. Therefore, he was able to nullify that which came from the attributes of Zah, Hashmidam, to destroy them, Lule. And that's the concept, if it wasn't for him, of the word Lule. Maybe it has to do with Lamed as well. He doesn't explain what the concept of Lule is. Ein Medrash of Parshas Vayetze binyan Lule, but to understand it, you look in Medrash concerning the concept of Lule, if it wasn't for. And he explains it, and the intention is Lu, Hainu Ziran Pin, that Lamed Vav corresponds with Zah, 36, 6 times 6 is 36. Li, Hainu Atik Yamin. And for me, is Atik Yamin, so Lule is Zah and Atik. Al derech kol makom shenemar li chulu, just like the concept of any time it says li, inuz az l'olam never moves. Ariyam shachas osiv zios ve'adibur matik yamin. So drawing down the letters and speech from Atik, Biteil Hadin Hanimshach Madibur Dizah, it nullifies the judgment that comes from the speech of Ziranpin. Like it's brought in Balak on the verse that if he says and he doesn't do Yachid Mumche, so to it is in the ability and the strength of speech of the single expert, like Moshe, to draw down speech from even a higher place, Yoser Mehanoder, higher than the one who makes the vow, Achis Batel HaIsur, until the forbidden is nullified. Because the oath draws down speech into the concept of the left that pushes away, and permitting the vows draws down from speech from higher than that, from the concept of the right that draws close. And further we can say that the oath that's from speech of man, it's from the letters of Shimban, that becomes a crown, wisdom and understanding for the world of Bria. It's Malchus of Atzilus. And the permitting of the sage, Osios, the Shema, from the letters of Shema, Chochma, Koachma, from the which is from the Zav Atzilus, to permitting or elevating the concept of Shimban, because Ma is the strength of what Chochma. So you have the Chochma corresponding with Ma of Atzilus, elevating the Ban of Bria, that goes into Bria. B'Mishnah Sham Hadinin v'Avodos Hataros v'Atumos Yesh Lahen al Mashi Smochu. And in the Mishnah over there about Heter Nedarim's Poreach V'Avir, it says that the judgments and the services and the purities and the impurities, they have something to rely on. Hein Gufei Torah, they are the body of Torah. And the Gemara asks, are these other things not the body of Torah? That is to say, the releasing vows, is that not body of the Torah? And it answers, yes, both of them, hein v'hein, gufei Torah, they are both the body of the Torah. But we can further say, according to its simple meaning, that they could be answering, no, that only those things are the gufei Torah, hein gufei Torah, that only the other things are the gufei Torah and not the Heter Nedarim. Like it's brought in Zohar. Baloscha daf kuf nun beis amud aleph shebetorah yesh levush v'guf v'nishmasa l'nishmasa, that in the Torah there's a garment and a body and a soul to the soul. V'imken yesh lomar dehein gufei Torah. Yeah, so if if that's the case, you have a guf, so those things are the body of the Torah. Guf hadinim shebetorah, the body of the judgments in the Torah. V'chim pirush Ramaz sham, so the Ramaz explains over there. Aval heter nedarim sheinu mivor betorah klals, but the permitting of vows, which is not brought in Torah at all, kim beremez, only hinting, inu nimshach mebechinas gufa deoraisa, it's not drawn from the body of the Torah, shua kelim ki mebechinas nishmasa deoraisa, but it comes from the soul of the Torah, shalamayel mebechinas gufa chul, which is higher than the concept of the body. Lekaman Sifyud Zayin, look what's brought further on in paragraph Yud Zayin, the 17th paragraph, in Yinshat Torah Nikrachai Olam, that the Torah is called the life of the worlds, Ketzer V'zeu Heter Nedarim Porachim Ba'avir, and this, we talked about how this is the concept of releasing vows that fly in the air, Aviradach Yisodaba, that the pure air is the concept of Yisodaba, Avir or Yud, and the word Avir is made up of Ur and Yud, the light and the Yud. Misham Shoresh Osios, and from there is the letter, is the source of the letters, because it says that the man was created to a soul, a living soul, and the translation is to a speaking spirit, because therefore from the letters of prayer you tie crowns, yiratzon, that there be will, so that you can permit the forbidden of the vow, because there are letters that are higher than the vow. That one speech comes and nullifies another. So to awaken from the idea that you should stretch out your hand, your yudecha, your yud, gam porechim ba'avir, so to the concept of how nedarim fly in the air, ba'avir al derech migdal ha'porech ba'avir, it's compared to the concept of the tower that flies in the air, shuhu os lamed bina, which is the concept of lamed, which is bina, nikra migdal, it's called a tower, al derech ha'chos, symbolic, like the idea of a seal that sticks out V'chein asfan rav ravan, so too the concept of the big letters, poreach ba'avir, they fly in the air. So I guess that might mean the small letters are like chosim shokeh. And asfan benuni might be just flat letters. V'chein asfan rav ravan, poreach ba'avir, so too you have these letters that fly in the air. Keser, or it might be the opposite. You have the shokeh, you have the engraved letters osios hakika. Anyways, the big letters they fly in the air. Keser gimel osios aleph mem shin emesh. So too, keser is the three letters of avir mayim eish, the mayim eish chesed gvura, and avir is the keser. Imos, they're called the mothers in Sefer Yetzirah, avir keser chulu, and how the air corresponds with keser b'chinas ayin, like it flies in the air. Kodesh lam, because it's in the concept of not in bo mamashos. Kodesh lamed melamata avaya melamaila, and Kodesh is the lam and the lamed below, and avaya is above. Kamokin heter nedarim shetorah shabal ped. So too, releasing the vows of the oral Torah, the divrei sofrim is the words of the scribes. Ki sefer dio osios yud, because the book is the ink and the letters yud chachma. The word dio is the same letters as yud of chachma, but sofrim is higher than the ink. It's the concept of keser, bina, and through the five letters, from the five fingers, so you have the ink, which is the yud, and the five fingers that write it, bina, nimshach bekol mos yisod, which is drawn through the quill, which is yisod, al gabi sefer malchus, upon the book, which is malchus, so the sofer is higher than all of them. Zeu shem avaya datzilos, and that's the concept of avaya, of the word of the world of atzilos, is the book itself with the ink and the fingers and the quill in the book. Mashenkin sofer b'chinas avir, which is not the case with the scribe himself. He's higher than all of that. That's the concept of the air, the havaya varich, like he brings osios hakika, the letters of engraving. The avir corresponds with the letters of engraving. Ayas sofer es hamigdalim. Where is the counter of the scribe of the towers? Hein gufei Torah, they are the body of the Torah. Val heter nedarim, but that's the val heter nedarim, but the releasing of vows and imshach mibechinas hayesofer that comes from who is the scribe? Zehu nishmasa deoraisa. That is not the gufei Torah. It's higher than it. It's the soul of the Torah.